Welcome back to Blurred Summits. Today, we're going to be talking about Stoicism, maximizing the positive emotion while minimizing the negative emotion. Abdul, let's hop right into it. What's the little history behind what Stoicism actually is?
So, when did Stoicism begin?
That's actually, I'd love to know that.
Let's hear interesting
Let's
stuff.
hear it.
So, Stoicism was kind of split up into three big eras that they think about, right? The very first era, where they call it early Stoicism or the early Stoics, it was right when it started, and the founder of Stoicism is Zeno of Citium, way back when, 201 BCE. This is a super long time ago, and it started in Athens. Okay, started in Athens, and where it gets its name Stoicism from is that there was a market in Athens where the early Stoics would come to, and each week they would talk about Stoicism, and they would talk about the philosophy of Stoicism. You know, it was a little peer support group, we'll call it.
Does this have anything to do with Stoicism and chem? Stoichiometry, Stoic. Remain calm.
I have no idea, actually. That's a good question.
Minimize change.
It definitely probably has something to do with it, but I don't know what it is.
It's the same base word, but that's pretty much it. I don't know.
Stoichiometry.
Stoa.
Yeah. But so the market was called Stoa Poikile. I think I butchered that name, but basically the Stoa is where we get Stoicism from. And that's all you really need to know. So these guys, they come together, and a lot of them actually derived their information from earlier philosophies of Plato and those, Greek philosophers that came before them. Mm-hmm. But this is considered when it really started beginning forming those fundamental pillars. So the second period of Stoicism is just when it moved to Rome. We don't know much about this period. It was a bit of a transitionary period. I'm sure there's some information.
No one really cares about the middle. But it's all about the bread. No one cares about the meat and potatoes.
The real interesting part is actually late Stoicism. So this is when Stoicism began to touch imperial Rome. So these really big figures began to identify with Stoicism and preach the philosophy of Stoicism and call themselves Stoics. So some of these are people like Seneca, right? Marcus Aurelius, who was literally the emperor at the time, considered possibly one of the greatest emperors of Rome. Unbiased opinion from Abdul.
I had a feeling. I'm like, that sounds like an Abdul opinion.
Well, let me tell you this about Marcus Aurelius, right? Marcus came into power when the Romans were being attacked from like a bunch of different sides. They faced a plague, literally a pandemic of their own.
Wait, didn't he run away from that one? Was he the one who ran off from that?
No.
Who was that one then?
No, that was a doctor, fam. That was the doctor that we learned about in that one class.
Right. I knew it was that. That's what I was trying to figure out. Was that?
No,
class,
and at the same time there was mass flooding. So he was literally getting bombarded with like three things that no other emperor really had to face. I'm sure other people had to face, some pretty terrible things, but he faced a lot of these things. And it's said because of his Stoic philosophy, he was able to do really well in all three scenarios. And he ended up actually dying from the plague itself. But that's a different story. So
Stoicism does not improve your
immune system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he actually learned from Epictetus, who is one of the most famous Stoics of all time.
We learned about him too.
We did learn about him, and I think we even quoted him probably in an episode or two. Probably. I feel like we did. Like, he's super, super famous. And the real interesting thing is both Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, these guys who are part of late Stoicism, they a lot of their writings are preserved. They were preserved. They're translated now, right? And they're very widespread. And so what we're going to talk about next are 5 lessons that we actually get from Marcus Aurelius. Most of these lessons are actually derived from a book called Meditations, written by Marcus Aurelius.
So these don't have to do with meditation?
No. So Meditations is basically his own personal journal. It was unintended to be published, fun fact. But they basically found it after he died, and they translated it and they began publishing it. So it's unconsensual. But in this book of Meditations, you get to see his thought process, right? Okay. It's a little bit all over the place. They're just like tiny words passing, as a journal would be.
Yep.
But a lot of really great Stoic teachings came from this book.
Let's hear the top ones.
Phenomenal.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so life lesson number 1 is to view obstacles as opportunities. So Marcus Aurelius in Meditations wrote, just as nature takes every obstacle, every impediment, and works around it, turn it to its purposes, incorporates it itself, so too a rational being can turn each setback into raw materials and use it to achieve its goal.
Break that down.
So let me break this down. Here he's saying nature takes every obstacle and incorporates it. So, for example, a rock in a river. The river doesn't stop at the rock. It works around the rock. It forms with the rock. It incorporates the rock. Sometimes the rock actually helps to lead the river in certain paths that end up helping the ecosystem. So, you know what I'm saying, right? It's pretty crazy stuff here. So, in the same way, nature never rejects something. It takes things as it comes.
Like forest fires.
Forest fires, right?
They take them, pine cones drop. Fresh start.
Right? They've evolved to actually utilize forest fires where the pine cones need the forest fire.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and in doing that, it's actually better for the forest because it ensures constant, continual new growth and all the dry, dead stuff gets burned off. Yeah. Right? You don't even need a cleaning service. It incorporated a bad thing and turned it into a cleaning service. It's crazy. So basically here he observed these things about nature and he said, take everything that comes to you as it comes. Yeah. Don't resist it. Right? Don't resist these things. And when you take it, incorporate it within your life, right? Act as if nature is. Figure out how can I take this thing and adapt it to serve me instead of
I think a
harm
lot of
me.
these, it's just taking these challenges and growing from said challenges, right? Using them as a stepping stone to get to this higher level. Yeah. Each time you get it, basically put that other rock or whatever it is, slab, down on the floor, take another step higher, and you just keep moving and moving and moving higher, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly what Marcus used to do as well. Like, Marcus Aurelius didn't want to be an emperor.
What do you want to be?
He wanted to be a philosopher. He didn't care to be a ruler, which is super interesting about him because usually people want to be the rulers. They want to be the ones in power. But Marcus Aurelius didn't want to. He wanted to take more of the artsy route and want to go into philosophy. But he recognized his responsibility. And despite his responsibility, he was able to fulfill his responsibility, but still incorporate the philosophy into his life.
Was it a monarchy or a democracy back then?
No, it was a monarchy.
Yeah.
He was the emperor. Yeah. And, you know, how did he incorporate this? How he did it was he actually got on a second ruler. He picked a guy, I forgot his name, and they ruled the empire together. So this allowed him to take a little bit of time to do other things. Now, of course, that didn't end up happening because of all the wars and plagues and floods. But to this day, he's almost recognized more as a philosopher than an emperor because he took that
did things other than just go and kill a bunch of people and take over nations.
Yeah. The second lesson is love your fate. So he said, to love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony.
I got this one.
This one's real simple. Yeah.
Things happen for a reason, so don't worry about them. And just let them be. Something bad happens. Don't just fall down and crumble because that happened to build me up, build my character, challenge me to grow outside of my comfort zone and grow up, be a better person, and keep going, right? Like, I think we talk about that a bunch. Like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and that's like really what he says. It's that if you just let things happen as they come, then there's harmony in this. It's like it syncs up. There was this other quote, I believe it's by Epictetus, and I'm paraphrasing right now, but he was also a Stoic. He said, when something bad comes by you, then do not reject it. And when something good comes by you, then take from it unapologetically, but without abundance. So just take your fair share. You know,
take what you need.
Take what you need, but don't take more, because life will try to, give you a lot.
They'll take it back.
He said, take a moderate amount, take a balanced amount. He said, and if something passes by you, then don't put your hand out and try to reach for it in desperation. He said, do this with your status, with your family, and with your money. He said, and if you do this, then surely you will feast with the gods.
I don't think he said that last part.
No, he did. He actually did. It's like, surely you will then have enough honor to feast with the gods, or something like that.
That's pretty savage. But I think there's a pretty clear trend in this Stoicism where it's just go wherever the river flows, right? Mm-hmm. Just kind of move with the motions. Don't try to force your way like to the side. Just let it go where you want to go.
Yeah.
And you'll end up at the bottom of the river no matter which way, whatever happens, right? So just kind of flow with it. But obviously you do want to take control of your life and not just take it every day, but you just need to take whatever's in front of you at face value and just run with it.
And I think that's exactly what it is. It's taking it at face value. Because sometimes we give on our own interpretation. It's a little bonus tip. I don't think we have this on the list. A little bonus tip in the Stoic philosophy is exactly what you said. They said, do not provide interpretations to statements. Take them exactly at face value. So a quote from Marcus Aurelius that he said, if somebody comes to you and they say so-and-so has said bad things about you, mm-hmm. then you should reply to them, so-and-so has said bad things to me, but so-and-so has not said bad things, has not harmed me. Do you see what I'm saying? So, okay, I completely butchered that quote.
So-and-so has said bad things to me, or had said bad things about me, but so-and-so hasn't said bad things to me. That seems more...
Yeah, kind of. It's like, basically, let me kind of explain it instead of trying to butcher this quote. What it is he was saying, if I say Billy talked trash about you, right? Mm-hmm. Then what you should do is you should say, Billy talked trash about me. Billy didn't say that I was hurt. If I get hurt, that's completely on me. Mm-hmm. Because his words were just talking trash.
Yeah.
He never came and physically hurt you. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's how we should take it, is basically see things at face value. When you interpret things, that's where the suffering comes in. That's where the harm comes in.
Don't take things too personally. I guess that's what that...
Yeah, exactly. Number 3, fame and desire aren't worth it.
Fact.
So this comes from, or actually, let's just take a step back because I really want to say this one quote about love your fate. This is from Friedrich Nietzsche, and he was one of the greatest psychologists. I don't want to say greatest, but that's a little bit. He was a psychoanalyst, I believe, and he's super, super famous for his writings. And he said this quote. He said, my formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati. I feel like I said that wrong. And what this translates to is that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backwards, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it, right? So basically what fata mori is that I think it translates to love your fate.
Yes, that amor is French for love. In fact, that seems
like fate. Seems like fate.
Love fate. Easy.
So, right?
Love your fate.
That's I really love that quote. Next, fame and desire aren't worth it. So what's the quote for this one? Consider that as the heaps of sand piled onto one another hide the former sand, so in life the events which go before are soon covered by those which come after. So he said this. Fame and desire come and go. Right? Because the second that you get fame, then you're going to have this amazing thing for a moment, but surely the days will pass by and the new sand will come and cover it. And somebody else is going to be famous.
Well, like, especially in these day and ages, right? You go look at some of these YouTube stars, right? From like 10 years ago. What are they doing now?
Exactly. People fought like, remember the guy who sang Chocolate Rain? Yeah. I remembered him the other day because he was on Yes Theory.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
But like Chocolate Rain was one of possibly the most viral videos on YouTube.
Kids, hide your wife.
Right? But you know what? That fame and that desire has passed on. Now we have the TikTokers are having their moment of shine, right?
Obviously there will be a few who will be able to live through all these moments, but most of them, it'll be like a one-off thing and then they'll just...
But it never lasts.
Yeah.
It never lasts, right? It doesn't matter how big you are. You're always going to, even if you die. Like Marcus Aurelius was the ruler. Every person in Rome, mind you, the Roman Empire was massive.
Yeah.
right? One of the biggest of all time. And how many people know Marcus Aurelius today? Not many, except for me. Right?
I mean, yeah, probably a decent amount of people.
Like a decent amount of people, but surely not what used to remember him. And so when you chase after these things that are temporary, we're not going to be able to satisfy our emotions or our self or our journey. And I think that's what it's really talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Number 4, problems are all in the mind. He said, let not future things disturb you, for you will come to them, if it shall be necessary, having with you the same reason which you now use for present things. Now, before we say anything, there's another translation to this, which I like personally a lot better. It's not written down here, so I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. But it says this. It says, let not future things disturb you, for you will come to them, if it shall be necessary, having with you the same weapons of reason that arm you against today for your present challenge. There's something along those lines. But I really like that idea of weapons. And I don't know if I said it, but in the other translation, he says, sharpen your weapons. Sharpen your weapons of reason. He's basically saying, you're going to face tomorrow's challenges. A lot of people, they dwell on the past. Oh, I did this person wrong. This person is not nice to me, whatever. Maybe you might even see that person in the future. When you see them in the future, what are you going to be like? Are you going to have the same weapons that you had today?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. You want to go back because you know what? You got destroyed in that battle. You got destroyed.
You need to build up that armor.
Right? You got, sad over it. You got anxious over it. You got scared over that past challenge. You got heartbroken over that past challenge. Mm-hmm. But now, when you will face a similar challenge in the future, and it will come, make sure that your weapons are sharpened, right? You're given this brief little period.
I think I kind of took that as you want to live in the present, but prepare for whatever is to come. And through living in the now, you'll learn all these skills through your day-to-day life that'll be helping you for the future. Because either if you're living in the past or the future, you're going to be missing out on what's being shown at you at that very moment, setting you up for the things down the line. Because as it said before, everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
So if you're living in the now, you'll do all these things that are meant for you, setting you up for those future challenges.
And a personal example to this is when I was given a med school interview, I would always be thinking about the interview, which was in the future, right? And what did I do in the present? I wasn't sharpening my swords. So when I faced that challenge, I was with dull swords. I was with dull weaponry, right? I didn't have the skills or the abilities to be able to maximize it, because surely you will see it. Tomorrow will rise. It'll either rise or you're dead, right? Yeah. So if you're still breathing, it's going to come, right? Which is tough. But anyways, so.
Yeah, just got to have those sharp knives. And if not, got to work hard to get them sharp.
And when you are defeated in battle, you know exactly where your deficiencies are. Because if you win, it's like, okay, I won.
You don't know where your weaknesses are.
I don't know where my weaknesses are. Exactly, right? I won. Okay, great. I can do the same thing and keep winning. That's what we believe. But if you fail, you know that something is missing here. Something is wrong.
You just need to figure out what it is.
You need to figure out what it is. Exactly. Yeah. So another quote here is he says, for the same tip, is our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacles to our acting. So here, I'm going to give you an analogy to explain this.
Okay.
When you're doing a magic trick in front of people, if I mess up, I'm doing a magic trick, right? If I mess up in the middle of the magic trick, who knows it?
Only you.
Only me. Everyone else is thinking this is just another step, right? So what can I do? I just adapt it a little bit. I just change it. Instead of doing this, I got plan B, I got plan C.
It's like, no, I messed up. Then they know you messed up.
Exactly. If you say it, then you lose. Then you quit.
Yeah.
So the analogy is, it's the same thing with life, right? If you say that you're done, then you're done. But as far as everything is concerned, everything is just a step. You can't tell how many steps it's going to take, right?
Yeah.
You thought your magic trick was going to take 5 steps. Turns out when you're on your 5th step, you're like, oh man, I forgot to do this. Okay, let me just adapt it. And so the same thing with life. Here he basically says, take what comes, adapt to these problems, and in the end, everyone just cares about the end. Exactly. Once you go ta-da, and everyone's mind is blown, do they care that you took 2 extra steps?
They don't even know you took 2 extra steps.
Nobody even knows, right? And so that's exactly what it is with life. See how magic is analogous to life? Pretty cool.
You just find any way to shoehorn magic in.
Listen, that was, because I can remember the exact moment where I had that profound realization.
We've talked about that before.
Is that I was in TFDL doing this magic trick, and I realize I mess up. And my face just goes red because I'm like, damn it, I messed up. There was like at least 10 people watching, right? So you know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn it, I messed up. But then I kind of stood there for a second. Everyone's just standing there waiting for me. And I thought to myself, I'm like, wait, they have no idea I messed up.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was like, wow, amazing. So tip number 5.
Did you finish the magic trick?
Oh, yeah. And their minds were blown, fam. Right? Their minds were blown.
Yeah.
Tip number 5. You're stronger than you think. Marcus Aurelius said, how lucky I am that it has left me with no bitterness, unshaken by the present, and undismayed by the future. The things could have happened to anyone, but not everyone would have emerged unembittered, yeah. Right? So here he's saying, wow, I went through a lot. He went through a lot, right? Mm-hmm. He came into power. He was having the worst things happen to him. And he said, I came out of this and I wasn't bitter. I wasn't cynical. I didn't say, these people suck or these people suck. He said, how lucky I am that this happened, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe this happened because he was a Stoic, because he followed that philosophy, right? And that's why he was able to come out of it feeling unbitter. It's like, how many people do you know, they have a bad experience and they just go, screw this, I'm never doing it again?
Yeah, a fair amount of people.
Right? You know what I'm saying? The example that I think about is when people, let's say, for example, somebody stabs them in the back, a close friend, stabs them in the back. Mm-hmm. Then they trust nobody. They become very cynical of people. And they start to say, don't trust nobody. Don't tell nobody anything. Don't tell nobody your feelings. Don't, save yourself, because all they're going to do is they're going to stab you in the back. Right?
Yeah.
Clearly, this person wasn't a Stoic.
Does that you're just...
Right? I think that if you follow the philosophies of Stoicism, you'll be able to take hits. Mm-hmm. Right? You'll be able to take hits and be unfazed by them. I think that's really what it is.
Get a better example was...
Give me the better example.
Like golf.
Okay.
Because obviously you struggle through golf, right? Mm. You struggle, you have your ups, your downs, you're like, okay, go to driving range, you try new things, you get worse because of it, worse to get better, worse to get better. That's kind of how it works. You fix something, you lose it, you gain it back. Well, I started all the way down there not being able to do it, and now I'm up here, but 70% of people will stop, probably more than that, in the middle, at the beginning, because they're like, oh, I'm so bad at golf. When they haven't even gotten over that first little dip, right?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well, I suck because I had this bad round, so I'm not good at golf. I don't want to do this because I'm not good at this.
And how much better is life to be unbitter, or to be able to kind of just be happy with it, right? Mm-hmm. How much better is golf when you can keep doing it until you get good, and that's when it gets fun.
Even when you have a bad day, don't let the bad day... It's like, oh, well, it's a bad day. Like yesterday. Bad day. Oh, well. Next one will be better. Need to practice. Get back out there. That's the same thing with life, basically. Bad day, bad something, bad interview, work, school. Oh, well. Go back. We move is what I like to say.
Yeah.
Something bad. We move.
You got to roll with the punches.
We move.
We move.
And let's move. You go, you move. Get fresh, get things kind of tuned up, and then you get back out there. Mm-hmm. And then you're good.
And that is why, to end things off, we have one final quote. He said, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, right? It's when you dance, it's good all the way through. The process is amazing, right?
I didn't realize wrestling was around back then.
I have no idea if this is Marcus Aurelius. I'm not gonna lie. This did not come from Meditations. Somebody quoted Marcus Aurelius. This could be completely false, but I think it's a fantastic quote.
No, it's a fair quote, right? Like, you'll have your challenges. You can come on top no matter what.
Right? The process is sometimes gonna suck, right? Because not all the time when you're wrestling are you feeling great about it. Sometimes you are, but sometimes it's a grind, right? Sometimes it's just pure suffering, right? But in the end, if you do it properly and you're given victory, then it's worth it, right? So,
I think all this makes me realize I think I'm technically a Stoic because I believe all this stuff. I'm like, yeah.
We are all Stoics.
Well, I think all's a little broad.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But,
yeah, right. And the thing that I appreciate about Stoicism is it's true of life.
It's realistic.
It's realistic. There's some things, some philosophies out there that are too ideal. Some philosophies are too cynical. But Stoicism has a nice middle ground where it says, take life as it comes and move.
It accepts the bad, but wants you to have more good.
Yeah, and I think that in the end, hopefully, I don't know, I guess we won't really be able to know until we try this out for ourselves. But it seemed to work for people before us. And you know what? We might be going through a pandemic right now, but we're not going through wars and flooding too.
Yeah.
Imagine I jinx that. So
I mean, I'm sure someone's going through both of those right now.
Yeah.
Just not us.
Just not us, thankfully. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode on Blurred Summits. If you thought any of the information we shared was helpful, think of one friend who could benefit from this information. Be sure to share this podcast with them. You can follow us on Instagram. You can also watch the full video podcast on YouTube. The full audio podcast is out on all platforms. Thank you.